I'm super excited to have my guest on, Jacent Wamala. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in Las Vegas. She's had a private practice for quite a while, working with women of color on anxiety, depression, and trauma recovery. And she's taught courses at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, in areas such as personal growth and development, multicultural issues in families, and contemporary couples and families. And just so you know, Jacent has a very prominent online community for motivated millennials focused on personal growth and personal finance. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have her on the show was to talk about her journey into paying off $90,000 in credit card and student loan debt, which I saw in a pretty exciting interview that she did a few months before 2020, to share her story into that. So we're going to listen to her share how that came about. And hopefully that'll help some of our listeners to also do the work that they need to do if they're in debt, to pay down debt in a very short period of time. We're going to also listen to Jacent tell us what she's been doing in terms of her money mindset coaching work, which is really valuable for our listeners as we listen to what we'll be discussing today on financial wealth is mental health. So without further ado, let's bring up Jacent's mic and welcome her to the show. Thank you, Jacent, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I just really appreciate being able to have these conversations and for us to essentially, begin creating new cycles by educating and changing the narrative around, things like money and personal growth and investing in your wellness. So I just want to, definitely acknowledge and thank you for the work that you're doing with Black People Heal. And I'm super excited to have this conversation.
So am I. First of all, to everyone who's listening to this, let me just tell you the power once again of social media networking. You all probably have seen our previous interview on the channel, and we talked a lot about networking with confidence. Well, it was through my seeing Jacent network with confidence on social media and her bubbly personality and just the exciting things that she was doing between mental health work and then growing her money mindset coaching that drew me to her. It was about a year ago at the height of the pandemic when we were all working remote that I found Jacent on Instagram through another place that I was looking to do some coordinating and networking with. And by chance, that didn't happen. But what did happen was Jacent and I connected with each other. I began to follow her work on Instagram. And then next thing you know, we were fast buddies on Instagram, being up late at night sometimes, watching her on her lives from Las Vegas, to being able to follow her work and her growth from quitting doing therapy, which we're going to talk about soon, to really growing her money mindset programs and work with people. And I was intrigued by that and asked her to come along and be a part of this show. So let's just start with that. Let's start with telling the audience first and foremost about your journey through becoming a therapist. Tell us how long you were a therapist and what were the areas, besides the ones that I did mention in your bio, that you really started to specialize in as you grew your work.
Yeah, so I got my undergraduate degree from UNLV in psychology, and then I double minored in marriage and family therapy and theater. So I graduated with my undergraduate degree 2013, I think it was, and then I went straight into my master's program at UNLV to complete a master's of science in marriage and family therapy. So I finished school 2015 in December, and so that right after that I started. Teaching at UNLV as well as working in my own practice, which at that point I hadn't niched down. So I was just seeing any and everybody. And so it wasn't until a colleague of mine was like, no, like if you really want to be successful, if you want to have a big impact, you're going to want to kind of find your space, in the field, in the profession. And to be quite honest, like to be totally transparent, I was like, I don't know if who I want to work with is going to want to work with me.
Mm.
So, because I was like, yeah, I live in Las Vegas, and there is a high population here of those who are LDS, and so I would see other therapists, LDS therapists or whoever else, and it's like they have full practices, but they also have, there's a different culture around mental health services. And so I really desired to work with millennial women of color, and supporting them in identifying, what roadblocks were getting in the way of them living their best lives. But at that time, I had a limiting belief that said, like Black people don't go to counseling, they go to church.
Mm.
So to me, I was like, I'm never going to have a full practice of Black women or women of color, because minorities don't partake as often in mental health services. It's not true, because as soon as I niched down and I reformatted my website, I changed everything and really started focusing in that area. It was not too far after that I was able to fill my practice up with people who look like me from backgrounds similar to mine, and really being able to enjoy my work in a different way than I did before, as opposed to being constantly on the verge of burnout, to enjoying my sessions. When I see my clients' names on my calendar, I'm excited. I look forward to talking with them and finding out, what progress they've made or what challenge they've come up against, so that we can work through it. And so, as a therapist, and anyone who's in mental health or in a profession where there's a lot of limiting beliefs, you'll understand where I'm coming from. And then from the other side, as someone in the community looking for someone to work with, there's complexity in finding your fit. And so I'm glad that I was able to take that chance and an opportunity to serve who I felt best suited to support, because it really has worked out. And so the kicker is actually that I still do have a practice. I just don't really advertise it much or anything, because it's kind of full. So I do still see clients clinically in the state of Nevada, all virtually, but I also do the coaching, and the coaching really was birthed out of my own experience. So that kind of took off last year, around the time that I was finishing paying off over $94,000 in student loan and credit card debt. So I am currently still licensed, still seeing a handful of clients, but I don't talk about it much, because I can't take on anyone else. So I just refer people out and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it's been an interesting journey. And I think in the future, I'll probably continue to phase out the therapy, and potentially stop taking clients altogether.
Wow, talk about a phenomenal woman. Well, let me back up, because we always want to inform people about some of the acronyms we use here on Black People Heal, so that they get more information and understand what we are referring to. Tell us what LDS stands for.
Latter-day Saints. So uh, Mormon religion is
Mm-hmm.
essentially what I'm referring to there.
And that was primarily the population of people that were going to therapy where you are?
Well, there's a large LDS population in Nevada and in
I,
Las Vegas. So
ah,
a lot of the places that I was working at, those were a lot of the therapists that I was surrounded by. And
mm-hmm.
so the block came in because their churches actually will refer and sometimes pay for their services. And I don't know that, I can't speak for everybody's church or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know that we have that in our diverse communities, that there's a direct link from the church to services like mental health. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the blocks that came up was, it's this old narrative that, well, Black people don't go to counseling. Like, we don't talk about stuff outside the house, we don't, we need to pray about it, which, yes, please do. Like, practice your beliefs for sure. But if you break a leg, you go to the doctor, so same goes with mental health and emotion. It's not that a counselor is going to be like, hey, you need to stop going to service on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Thank you for breaking that out. I had no idea that Las Vegas had a big Latter-day Saint population. So thank you for sharing that with me. I know that's more prominent even here in the East Coast region of North America that I'm living in. I am in New York, but um, some parts of New York, more rural areas, but more so like further south, Pennsylvania, we see that. Some parts of Maryland, even, and Delaware, I believe, but I didn't know that was a big population in the area in which you are. Um, you said something that I resonated with, and I was sitting here smiling because I think if I had to guess, probably more of our colleagues are in the same boat, and that's you are at capacity in your therapy practice. And at the top of the hour, I mentioned formally private practice because I'm only hearing and seeing what you've been doing in your money mindset coaching work. But similar to me, that's what I promote on Instagram as well, because I've been at capacity for a few years and I try to defer people so that I don't get, calls and emails to the coaching line that we have for the same reason. So kudos and congratulations to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. It's a really cool experience to have, and then to teach and show other people that they can have their version of whatever that experience is, right? Going from limitation to limitlessness in your way of seeing what it is you want to create in your life, and taking those small steps toward it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit before we get into some of the nuggets that you share as an expert in money mindset. What were those ideas around how you, as a licensed marriage and family therapist, was to approach the work that you anticipated doing? Because you said you went from having these limiting beliefs about Black people going to therapy to having a flourishing private practice in therapy. But were there other things that maybe were ingrained in you in addition to that, that initially kept you from whatever boundaries or barriers you had to growing your practice?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think I think that between growing up first generation, because I was born in Uganda and raised here in the States, and for anyone who's first generation or comes from a family that kind of has some level of an expectation that there are maybe only certain types of viable careers, you know what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. And so if it's outside of the realm of like a viable quote unquote career, then you're not necessarily going to have success within it. So I think it's not something that was blatantly said to me, but I think it's undertones and covert messages that we pick up, as well as definitely in the mental health world. I specifically recall being in classes and having instructors say things like, "Oh, well, you're not becoming a therapist to make money," and then I'm in my head like, but I'm paying for this education. So are you telling me there's not a return on this investment? Like, are you saying I'm going to be eating ramen every day? Because I'm confused, you know? And so there's definitely, I think, a stigma around limitations on, you know, prosperity and your ability to serve and make an income that's livable, at least, you know what I mean, if not thriving and busting at the seams. And so I know that that's something that's pervasive within like education. It's pervasive in social work and in any kind of helping profession, that in order to help, you must sacrifice yourself. You have to sacrifice your salary. You have to sacrifice time and energy and effort beyond what is comfortable. You know, there's this narrative, excuse me, that says that you can't have both. You can't do both. And I actually think it's the opposite, because for me, before I got focused in my financial journey, I was aimless in my career. And
Mm.
when I created a specific goal for my finances, that's where it started for me particularly. Okay, I'm talking about myself here. For everybody else, it might look a little different. But when I got focused in my finances, I got focused in my career. And that's what was helpful for me to be able to recognize that I could serve on a grander scale, that I could, you know, reach more people, that there was a way for me to be able to increase my impact and my income at the same time. And so I think that that was a turning point and a mindset shift that was really sobering,
Mhm.
um, to come to the realization of. And then, you know, again, how do I help other people have this realization when I'm in therapy? If I'm having shifts in my mindset, right? Like if you're a therapist, if you're a coach, hopefully you also have, like, in a certain season or in different seasons of your life, therapists and coaches to support you continuing to grow as well. So how do I kind of translate the things that I'm learning and turn it into something that is consumable by the people that I'm supporting, you know?
Wow. I want to just snap fingers on that because, again, I did not know, Jacent, I had so much in common with you. We have to do coffee. Literally, we have to do dinner, coffee, cocktails when you come to New York because I have so much to share with you. I can only drop a little bit here for the sake of time, but the fact that you talked about money, this is going to be a juicier conversation than I thought. I had the same revelation when I started focusing on my financial well-being and prosperity. Everything changed, and it's something I talked about in my book. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
reading my book, because it wasn't necessarily a blueprint I didn't have from my parents, but it wasn't something like you said that we ever talked about. So absolutely, just as you experienced what you did in grad school, it was a similar tone. Not necessarily coming from my professors, but definitely coming from, I guess, my colleagues, that this is a field that we can't earn a lot of money in. And I've heard that even since graduating and going into private practice, for people who come up behind me saying, well, my parents discouraged me from going into social work because they keep saying that you can't earn any income from it. You can't really thrive from it. And I'm like, wow. The idea that helping professionals tend to be on the bottom of the barrel when it comes to making a living, even in these organizations and institutions that push low income, low salaries, but high charges for your education, is
Mm.
really distorted. And I think in some ways almost criminal, right? To have you go into debt to go to school and then
Mm.
come out and try to work with people to not get into debt or to not suffer is really oxymoronic, but we'll talk about that another time. We are going to continue to talk about money for sure, but I'm glad to hear you shifted. Again, when I heard your story and I saw you online talking about paying off 90K plus in debt, I was really moved by that because I saw that there was a goal for you to reach that before the age of 30. And here you are saying you actually paid off $94,000 in debt, which blows my mind. I want to kind of shift a little bit though to talking about going from the work you were doing on yourself while being a therapist and then going into the money mindset coaching. How soon was that in between when you were doing therapy and when you started to shift into the role and title of a money mindset coach?
Yeah, so I officially started seeing clients 2014 at the clinic at UNLV. And then I transitioned into kind of a private practice agency hybrid in 2015. So that whole year I was there kind of slowly getting my bearings. And then I graduated December 2015. And so 2016 to 2019 was me, in private practice, also bouncing around different places here in town, in different mental health fields. Like I worked at the county, at the juvenile detention center. I worked at an assisted living, home. I've had a couple of different hats that I've worn. And so the money mindset coaching, I was on my personal financial journey, my debt-free journey from 2017 until, I mean, it's still a journey, but I finished paying off my debt May of last year. So we're coming, actually, by the time this airs, it'll be past my anniversary and I'll be celebrating some really fun stuff. So I can't wait to let y'all know about that. But
Congratulations. Congratulations. We got to pause on that. That's huge. Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. So I'm actually, on my year debt-free anniversary. So I finished paying off all of my debt May 2020 during the pandemic. And what's really
Woo.
wild to me is just a decision and a commitment to that decision that I made in 2017 kind of set me up to thrive more than I've ever thrived before in 2020 during the pandemic. And that is what really blows my mind, is like, wow, you never know what it is that you're preparing for and what God is trying to prepare you for, or whatever it is you believe in. You know what I mean? When there's these whispers of taking action and a step and moving towards something. And so
Mhm.
the money mindset coaching, I think the first thing that I ever did was a challenge. I did a financial fitness challenge February of 2020. And I was like, hey, who wants to do a financial fitness challenge, this month? And so I had probably like a handful of people sign up. And every day I would just send them these little tidbits of information about, money mindset, limiting beliefs, action items, different things to try. And what was really cool was what everyone was able to create. Like I literally started it without like thinking of it as something. Just was like, who wants to do this thing with me? I like talking about money. I want to help people be able to, get in control of their spending and their finances so that they can get on a plan to win. And the stories that came out of that, the relationships, the experiences, is what kind of birthed like, I like this. Like I want to do more of this, and I want to have these conversations and continue to educate and support, young people taking themselves seriously, to be honest, and still having a good time and enjoying life, but to be able to prepare and plan to live life on an even grander scale, you know? So it was February of last year that I started anything. And then throughout the year, I would do master classes and different things like that. And then it was in the fall that I really hit the ground running. So this was kind of birthed through experience of last year. And I was like, okay, I guess this is a thing. Like, people are asking me questions. I want to do this work. I want to help in this way. I feel like this could be sustainable for me in the long run. And so, yeah, this is the money mindset coaching is pretty new as far as it's been a year, but actually I was coaching since 2013 in different realms. So I did academic coaching and things like that.
Okay, so you basically transfer those skills over to now what's a part of your business.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Hmm. Awesome. I had a talk once that shared with people, use where you are to get to where you want to be. That was the title of the talk. And it's something I still say from time to time. I'm glad you brought this up for me to remember it, because I think so many people who are working in other institutions don't realize, especially when they're experiencing burnout or a career shift, how much you can learn on the job that's transferable to something you can then own later.
Mm,
And like you, I took a lot of lessons from working for other people into my business that even to this very date is helping me to thrive. So thank you. Thank you for being present to that work, Jacent.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to kind of help us maybe hear from you as a licensed therapist, a couple, maybe just two, possibly three things that you saw coming up repeatedly in your work with your clients around money. Because again, this conversation being financial wealth is mental health is really valuable for me, because I think the two often are separate. And as you and I know, in communities that are marginalized and racialized,
Mm,
money is one of the biggest stressors for people. It's one of the things that creates generations of poverty, lack of money, that is. It creates stress around children going to school and being able to fit in because they want to be able to look like their friends in the way they dress. They want to be able to have money in their pocket to go to the store when their friends go to the store. But if kids don't have that and if families don't have that, most times it's not something that I think people, because of shame, talk about, but I think is right there on the precipice of why people are in therapy. So, can you just give us from your own anecdotal history where you were seeing some signs of concern, where you thought maybe I could do more around money mindset for my therapy clients?
yeah, I think that it came up right at a consultation call or an email. You know what I mean? When a client is asking about the investment of
Mm-hmm.
therapy. And so it comes up right away when we talk about being able to invest in ourselves and how someone either sees it as an investment or doesn't. Because to be quite honest, you know, there are people that see other things as an investment that they're willing to uh, put their dollars behind, and they're not willing to necessarily do that for their mental health and emotional well-being, you know?
I
So
agree.
right, you get what I'm saying, right? I try to be kind of like, I don't know.
PC, but you don't got to be PC in this show. We all about non PC. Go ahead, girl.
Well, I mean, you know, people make it rain at Target and Amazon and, you know, lashes and wigs and clothing and whatever. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that those are things that are not worth investing in. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that how is it that we can put those other things as a priority before or above something like our mental and emotional well-being? Or the second thing that I notice is that there's a lack of management just in general. So who's to say you can't do those things simultaneously? But if you're not managing what's going on, then you're not going to be able to do them simultaneously because you don't know what's coming in and what's going out. So people just not, you know, having an efficient management system, whether that's a budget, whether that's a conscious spending plan, whatever you want to call it. Some people don't like the B word. And that was something that I saw coming up next. So, you know, first, not really understanding how mental health and wellness is an investment where that's worthwhile, and it kind of coming up in our consultation calls and whatnot, as well as, you know, there's just a lack of financial literacy. So people don't even know how to manage their finances or get on a plan to follow through with. They don't know how to have conversations around money, to be able to discuss where they're having challenges. There's a lot of shame and guilt and embarrassment around money as well. So I think those are the two major things. And then just a lack of alignment as far as where someone's at, where they want to go, and recognizing, is what I'm doing now going to help me to get there or not? So if someone says they want to have a satisfying relationship, they want to be in love and all that stuff, and but they have trauma or hurt from the past and whatever the case may be. And so, okay, well, therapy can help you with that, or shifting your mindset to be able to invest in couples therapy can help you with that. But the time and the money is spent doing X, Y, and Z else. Well, do you feel like that is legitimately, clearly going to get you to the outcome you want? Or are we just shooting arrows in the dark, hoping to get to the place that we would like? So I think that it's all about mindset. Everything, people want to change their habits, and I'm like, your habits are symptoms, your mindset is the core. And so you can change your habits temporarily, but you'll go back to whatever your mindset dictates, you know what I mean, whatever your programming says to do, if you don't transform it to a place that is supportive of where you're at presently and where you want to go in the future. So that was it, the mindset shift that had to happen, that I saw in all of my clients.
I want to relate to that for a second, because as a therapist also, I I think more often than not, therapists are, one, themselves afraid to talk about money with clients if they do not
Mm-hmm.
accept payment from insurances, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem. And two, I think we're not trained to talk about money as a function of people's dysfunction in our own training. So we talk about all of these systems, and I'm sure you remember this too from your own graduate training. We talk about the educational system, we talk about the housing system. We don't talk about the system of poverty, right? How people are sort of conditioned, or not sort of, they're conditioned to remain impoverished. But we talk about all of these things that as a community we can help clients to do, to get governmental assistance or to
Mm-hmm.
work on their depression. But if at the root of people's depression is the lack of money to take care of themselves or their family, why aren't we talking about that? So this wasn't one of the questions, but for me, it does tie into maybe one of the coaching tips I want to transition into momentarily. How did you start using the word investment, investing in therapy? Because I love that. And I think more of us are talking about that on social media, but when did you start using that word, and how did you come to calling it an investment in your therapy, paying for it that way?
Yeah, that was probably 2018 when I made that shift in my business and started niching down. And so I was creating my website, and there was like the pricing page or whatever the case may be. And so what came to me was, when I'm talking about pricing, I wanted the language to match, you know what I mean, truly what it is. And if we think about it, like, we as therapists expect our clients to invest thousands of dollars in themselves with us. And I didn't notice that until I looked and said, like, in a year, how much does one client invest in themselves with me?
Mm.
Not spend, invest, because they're getting a return on their investment.
Ooh, yeah.
Spend, when you spend and you're just consuming, that's different than an investment. An investment is something that appreciates. It's something that gives something back to you. So that kind of came to me in that process, and recognizing, if a client's coming every week, every other week, they're at the end of the year, they've spent thousands of dollars in themselves with you. So what I say to people is, you're the best investment you'll ever make.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that might be with me, that might be because of school, that might be because you listen to a podcast, this podcast, okay, and send it to your friends. It might be because you've read, what is it, Adulting as a Millennial, and you're investing your time to learn from experts in the field. So, an investment is something that you get something back on. You're going to get a return. And so that's the shift. that when we have the conversation, I can communicate that to the client. It's like, you're not just spending, it's not just consumption. The money's not going out without there being something that you get in return, which is mental clarity, coping skills, resources, more peace of mind, an ability to emotionally regulate yourself, a different way of communicating with your partner, family, and friends, direction on what you want to do next. So the investment is not or the return isn't monetary necessarily, unless they are able to get a promotion because they're more confident when they go into their annual review meeting. But it's really that they're getting some emotional payoff and return that is worth more than money can even buy. You know what I mean?
I do. Thank you for that. Thank you. That was so eloquent. I really think, once again, you're showing us how much of a powerhouse you are and why people need to invest in your services. Literally, it's language is very valuable. I've been talking linguistics for many years as a function of how we grow and how we heal ourselves. We can't use language that's assaultive. We need to use language that brings in new information, that is affirming and that's self developing. And that word investment is very powerful. We're going to shift just for a moment. We want to help people on the show to understand that they're coming here because they're going to receive some very powerful coaching tips, some very important strategies on how to collectively grow their economics. And so that's why you're here with us talking financial wealth is mental health today on Black People Heal. And so one of the things I want people to understand walking away from this conversation is everyone has a limiting belief. And some of the limits on our beliefs include we can't have prosperity. We can't grow our money for whatever reasons that people hold true to them. Just tell us what's the first step, not just a step, but what's the first step to overhauling that belief? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I think the first step is radical self honesty. So there's a book I always recommend. It's called Lies We Tell Ourselves: The
Mm.
Psychology of Self Deception. And essentially, what we learn how to do is tell these little fibs and these little white lies and these justifications that keep us from being honest with ourselves. And I only can kind of speak from my experience. So, literally, this is how I came to my realization and got on a plan. So, I had to be honest with myself when I calculated my net worth as I was reading another book, The Smart Money Woman, and it was negative $70,000. And I had to say to myself, do I like what this feels like? Do I like where I'm at? Yes or no? Some people are like, oh, well, you're going to be in debt forever. So it's just that you should just expect that to be the case. Like, we'll just come up with these ways of saying it's okay, or it's not that bad, or I'll figure it out at some point, or whatever the case may be. So I think radical honesty is the first thing, as far as being able to take action, because you can't take action unless you're being honest.
Love it. So, one, being honest with yourself about what you're spending, what you're saving, what you're willing to invest in.
Yeah. So then that leads to taking inventory. So you have to be honest and then take inventory. What have you been doing? And then be honest in that process. Let's not make excuses. This isn't about blame, but this is about accountability and responsibility, because from that place, then there's something that you can do. If you're a victim, then that means that everyone outside of you, everything outside of you is in control, and that you don't have influence over your situation. If it was me at Target making it rain every other week, okay, then I can say, all right, Jacent, like, what were we doing? What were we buying? And that, when I took inventory and I sat and looked through my credit card statements, because I had over $20,000 in credit cards, all right, I was at Target and Walgreens doing who knows what, because I could not tell you where that stuff was in my house.
Mm. And like most of us, probably shopping when you were in some
Listen,
mood and you feel like this would make you feel better. We already know how it
listen.
goes. Look, we're not going to keep just on long, but we're going to make sure we gather one more nugget from her so that you all walk away from this conversation understanding what steps you need to take to start transferring over bad habits into powerful, transforming them into powerful lifestyle shifts. So, just said, what are maybe two, possibly three people you think every person needs to have in order to invest their time, their money, or learning into? Who are those two or three powerhouses like yourself that people should have in their network?
Yeah, I definitely think you must have a counselor. A counselor is going to be someone that helps you to resolve and reorganize the things that you've been through before, if they are as well getting in the way of you being able to make progress right now. So to me, your counselor is going to help you to deal with everything that's happened to you in your past that is showing up in your present. Your coach, which is number two, which I think you must have, they go well together to have a counselor and a coach because they serve different functions. Your coach is going to help you be solution focused and organized in figuring out where you are and helping you to complete and follow through with a plan to get to where you want to be. Now,
Love it.
you have those two, and then I would say that you would definitely probably want a mentor or a community. So your mentor and community can actually kind of go hand in hand or go together, where your mentor maybe is the person that runs the community, you know what I mean? And so that way you get all of that. I'm from Africa, so I believe in collectivity. I believe that we are people that come from collectivity, and that collectivity is the original way of being and really what helps people to thrive when it's done well. Not, there's different ways it can be weaponized, but when it's done well, community is a healing opportunity. There's leveraged learning in a community because there's people that are ahead of you and there are people that are behind you, and whatever that thing is that can really help you to learn. So I think I would say a counselor, because if we are, people in the diaspora, all of us have generational trauma, all kinds of things that we need to unpack, right? So definitely a counselor, a coach to help you focus on, how you're going to get to that next level, that promotion, paying off that debt, being able to find emotional mastery, in certain ways, moving forward. And then a mentor with a community so that you can have that leveraged learning and be able to learn from someone who is where you want to be, and you can follow in their footsteps because success leaves clues.
Ooh, girl, you killing it. Yes, I'm community oriented as well. Love that. Those probably are the three best um, people in your circle that I think everyone does need to walk away from this conversation gathering, being intentional about it, vetting folks. All of that is super helpful. Jacent, before you go, we want to tell people the work that you're currently doing so that folks can not only find you online, but they can invest in you. So, what's the work that people should be looking forward from you soon?
Yes, so I'm really excited. This month is also my birthday month, and to me, that's the only holiday that I really care about. So
Same, same.
I'm celebrating by supporting others, and I'm really excited to launch Wealth and Wellness University, which is a membership. Okay, this is our tribe, our community. Again, I'm from Africa, so if you are with me on Instagram, then you're a part of the tribe, and a tribe could be thousands and thousands and thousands of people, but your clan is like your tight people. So when you become a member of Wealth and Wellness University, we're highly motivated millennial women of color turn for guidance on getting their careers, finances, and well-being on point, okay? Then you will join a whole slew of women that look and feel like you, that have these huge goals, but kind of hit some roadblocks and hiccups as far as implementation, discipline, consistency, and having a clear plan to follow through and make those things happen. So that's what's launching this month. I'm so excited because we already have had so many tribe members pay off their debt, increase their income, start, grow, and scale their businesses. And we're just here to cheer you on, whether we're celebrating your wins or helping you work through a struggle. And so that's what I'm working on and really excited about, essentially focusing in on this year. And if you want to just come find me and learn more about what I do in general, I'm most active on Instagram at Jacents Gems. That's JACENTS Gems. And that's the name of my podcast, which Asha has also been on. Thank you so much. So when you come to my Instagram, I treat it like my house. Say hello, don't be rude. I'll probably greet you first, but if not, it's because Instagram is a straight hater. So enjoy the posts. And I just look forward to all of us being able to capitalize on this time and really be awake to our possibility and our ability to dream and achieve whatever we like. So again, I really appreciate you, Asha.
I appreciate you. Is there a website directly that you want people to reach out to you on?
They can come find me on Instagram because I need to talk to you. I need
All right. I love it.
to learn about your goals. Okay. We need to have a conversation.
All right, and that's at Jacents Gems, GEMS, ladies and gents. Jacent, it's been a pleasure to have you. I know you got to go. It's been wonderful dropping these nuggets for our audience at Black People Heal. You guys make sure you stay tuned for this. Stay tuned for all the things that are coming your way from Jacent. She is a powerhouse. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, not taking new clients, so don't hit her up for that, but do come to her page for her wealth community. It's been wonderful having her on. It's been wonderful being here with you all. Once again, I'm your host, Asha Tarry. Be sure to follow us on social media at Black People Heal. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, and be sure to follow Jacent's Gems on Instagram and Twitter as well. For more information on how to reach out to us, you can contact us at www.blackpeopleheal.com. And we'll see you all again and talk with you very, very soon.